Charlie Kirk absolutely schools a student on abortion. Folks, I think you're going to like this, all right? It is self-explanatory. The right to life is one of the most important issues, if not the most important issue of political debate in our day. And Charlie knows just how to show how crazy the pro-abortion argument is. So without further ado, we are going to get right into it. But first, do me a big favor here. Like our video and share it around. And that way we can keep bringing you all this great, hard-hitting content. As always, Patriots, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
Pivot towards an abortion issue.
I've never debated that before.
Yeah, I don't think you have either. One thing I want to make clear is obviously there's people in the crowd. Obviously, I don't have the same worldview as people in the crowd, but I'm not here to to negatively talk. I'm not going to talk down to people who have different beliefs. I think that's not something that our country would be founded on. I think respectful disagreement. But in terms of abortion, the one thing, shout out Dean Withers, I guess, but the one thing that caught my eye was our women with IUDs murders debate. So can you just give a refresh and just explain if you think women with IUDs are or not murderers?
I actually debated this with Dean. No, I mean, it prevents conception.
Yes, but
it's no different than a condom or different than birth control.
But his argument was that, and I'm almost 100% sure you agreed with this, is that when conception happens, a unique human life is created when an IUD prevents human life.
It prevents the attachment to the uterine wall.
Yes, but when it's already a zygote, which is you would consider a unique human life, yes?
Correct, yes.
So then you're saying effectively that the IUD is, by your definition, if you believe life begins...
That's not the way an IUD works. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but yeah. it prevents fertilization.
Yes, okay. So turning off of that, in terms of a conservative worldview, I want to talk about how, specifically when you think of the Roe v. Wade being overturned, the right to privacy, that kind of stuff, when that's a precedent that's been used for other cases, things like gay marriage, Obergefell versus Hodges, if I'm remembering correctly, things like the right for gay marriage specifically, I think is it's a slippery slope, because when you overturn a case that relies on that right for privacy, you can start unraveling things that, I would consider marrying whoever you want to, regardless of your political affiliation, whether you believe in gay marriage or not. That's included in your amendments. That should the right to do what you want. Isn't the Conservative Party about freedom of choice?
There is no right to do what you want, all right? Certainly not in the way that this gentleman over here is saying it. In fact, the Founding Fathers generally agreed that liberty is not the freedom to do whatever you feel like doing, but really the freedom to do what you ought to do. Now, I know a liberal is going to hear this and start screaming, "Oh my God, you authoritarian, you're so horrible." Well, take it up with the Founding Fathers, all right? Not with me. Thomas Jefferson once said, and I'm going to read the quote here to make sure I don't get it wrong: "Liberty can no more exist without virtue and independence than the body can live and move without a soul." Truer words have possibly never been spoken.
It's at a baseline view.
There's a lot there. We believe in liberty, not license. So we believe you should be able to do things that elevate humanity and elevate your society, not license. For example, we don't believe you should be able to marry a 12-year-old.
Yeah, logically.
But that's freedom, isn't it? No, it's not, because that's license. Yes. So you must have the distinction, the philosophical maturity to know liberty versus licentiousness.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And then one thing I want to turn, because is so if you were to ask the entirety of America, if you're American women specifically, because they get abortions, if you were to ask every American woman, including states with abortion access like Illinois or something like a southern state which doesn't have it, would you say that they have more rights and more freedom of choice, bodily autonomy, than they did before Roe v. Wade was overturned?
States that outlaw abortion, of course, have more rights. You know why? Because women that are in the womb aren't being murdered. Have the right to life.
That's where your view would come in, and that's
no, hold on. Let's think about this.
Yeah.
Is life a right? Do you have a right to life once you exist?
Yes, but then the argument is,
well, you
when
said
does
yes.
life begin?
Well, no. So then answer me the question. When I believe life begins at, not just what I believe, what science reflects. Human development starts at conception. We can agree with that.
Yeah. Human development, sure. Yeah.
Okay, no. So, but if it's human development, then it's human life. You have to find another word other than life.
Yeah.
So tell me what word besides life you would use
to describe conceptions.
But what else? Conception. When it's fetus, whatever. What word other than alive? Because it's not dead. Because you could agree it's not dead because it has a heartbeat and DNA and the cells are forming and they're splitting. So if it's not alive and it's not dead, what word would you use? I
wouldn't necessarily call it alive. I wouldn't necessarily call it dead. I think there's a distinction. I wouldn't label it with one word just because it's I don't have.
But let's think about this more deeply.
The pro-abortion side very commonly uses this tactic of dehumanizing babies in order to justify their wicked position. People often say it's a fetus, not a baby. Or as this gentleman, and I'm not saying he's wicked, okay? It's just that the tactics of the people who implement these ideologies are wicked. This guy said earlier, a zygote. Okay, well, what is the zygote? Well, it's a human life.
Because I could tell you're smart. We actually always exist on a binary of alive or dead.
Yeah, I mean...
So then you have to choose. It's either dead or alive. There isn't a third option. If you want to create one, you can go to the science department here and argue that. But what is the third option other than alive and dead?
I would say... I don't know what he said.
I don't know, but it's okay.
I would say the one thing I want to talk is viability. I know I'm kind of dodging it, but like...
No, I know you are dodging it because
Yeah.
I just, and I'm not trying to pinpoint you, just to close the thought, then we can go to viability. Abortionists cannot answer this question ever because there is not a third option.
Yeah.
You are either alive or dead. It is a binary of existence, right? Now you could be supportive when you are alive, meaning you might need to have medicine or you might need to have a ventilator, but you are still alive by all objective measurements, or you are dead. We have a clinical definition in the hospital when someone is dead. We have an agreed upon clinical definition. We also have we do not have a clinical agreed upon definition of when something is alive. So when a human being is going on the process of human development in utero, it technically, of course, is alive, and therefore it's a human life, but we use all this different kind of trappings and language to try to dehumanize the being.
Yeah.
Let's put that aside.
Okay.
So think about that in the next days and weeks, because maybe it might convince you.
Yeah.
Viability.
So like in terms of viability, like I believe it's what, around 24, 26 weeks where it's considered it can be born prematurely and exist.
I mean, at 20 or 21 weeks, a miraculous NICU baby can be born, but I will grant you before that it's almost, yes, 24 weeks about a baby can survive a NICU. But let's take that example. So if viability was the moral standard, if a baby is born around 24 or 25 weeks, they have to go to a NICU. Do you know what a NICU is? It's okay if you don't. It's a neonatal intensive care unit.
Yeah.
Basically, where very, very small human beings, small babies go, and they have all sorts of machines that have to support them because they have not gone through the entire process of gestation. Basically, they were cut 15 weeks early. They're not viable. Yeah. Are they alive?
It was at this moment he knew he messed up.
You're saying they're not viable? I mean, they
can't survive without machines.
They can't survive without machines.
So are they alive?
I would say, yeah, I guess they're
alive.
alive.
Well, then how is it any different than a 16-week-old that requires an umbilical cord?
Because okay, we're talking about viability. We're talking about the definition of viability, to my knowledge, is being able to exist outside the womb.
It cannot exist without machines.
But it's existing outside the womb.
Right, but it cannot exist without some other external supporting device. It cannot breathe on its own. It cannot clear its bladder. It's in the NICU. It has, and if you've ever seen the image, I encourage you to look at it online. A NICU, you'll see a baby that's literally the size of the Sharpie pen that has like 15 different contraptions. I bet there's a NICU baby in this audience, by the way. Yeah, someone's raising their hand right there. Praise God, someone that's born premature in the hands. It's amazing, but it does beg the question. They were not technically viable under the pro-abortion definition because they could not survive without external support. So an external support could be an umbilical cord or it could be a baby ventilator.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I necessarily agree with like specifically like that definition, like external support.
Well, then that's fine. Give me a definition of viability and I'll hold you to that standard.
Well, okay. So I guess the viability I was talking about, I guess I still will talk about, is like external, like needs to survive outside the womb. Maybe not necessarily on its own because like I've seen none of us, like you can't even provide for yourself. You're an infant too, like under 5.
Right.
But like I would say that in terms of like viability, like something like existing outside the womb. Yeah, you just talked about NICU babies, whatever. Not whatever. But
no, that's fine. No, but the NICU baby essentially is mimicking the gestational process outside of the womb. If that makes sense, because a 27-week-old baby would not be able to likely survive if it wasn't for all these contraptions or machines. So what we've done is we've created with technology basically a counterfeit, a pretty good one, of the gestational process that they otherwise would be getting in utero.
Yeah.
But they're still alive.
And the logical conclusion of this is, of course, that guess what? At conception, they are completely alive, just like they are later in life. It is a human life. Just because it's less developed does not mean it is not a human.
NICU baby is born at 26 weeks. They get a birth certificate. They get a social security number, but they have a bunch of machines and they're not able to breathe on their own.
Yeah.
But we would both agree that's a human being.
Yeah.
Why?
I think honestly, I think it's. I would say it's easier for me to sit up here. Obviously, I'm not a woman. I'm not pregnant. I'm not a mother. But I think at some point it's easier for me to sit here and be like pro-abortion versus like if I was a mother, I think I would have some sort of like. Obviously, it's a hard choice to make. Like I wouldn't whatever. But then you also have the issue of like access to healthcare. With like if you view abortion as access to healthcare.
Now we're slipping into a separate argument, which is fine, which is degree of dependency. We're running the whole gauntlet, and I'm happy to do all of it, right? So I think we have viability. We've
come to
we've thoroughly went through those fields. But now we go to degree of dependency. You say it is a tough decision to make. I will push back a little bit. When women are properly educated that this is murder, I don't think it's actually a difficult decision to make. You have to then consider it something. You can consider it termination, elimination, but based on just very basic reason, human development, human life, the unjust taking of a human life is necessarily murder. And so, but then let me just, complete the point. Is it ever right to take a life if you don't have the money to support that life?
Specifically, Money? No.
Because you said healthcare or access to that. Said differently, if a mother had a 2-year-old baby and she lost her job and she goes into bankruptcy and she's in poverty, are you allowed to eliminate or terminate your 2-year-old baby because it might help you save money?
No, and I understand what the point you're getting at. It's like, oh, it's a 2-year-old. I understand the point.
Because we see
you're looking at a 2-year-old. It's the same thing as something.
It is morally indistinguishable than a 2-week-old in utero.
Now, this guy is obviously chill, but when you make this argument, usually people who are pro-abortion get furious, all right? They start frothing at the mouth. You know, the devil starts to reveal himself. They kind of start manifesting, let me kill babies. It's really disturbing. They get really angry at you. They call you a woman hater, all this kind of stuff. It's just... You know, I don't know. It's the kind of stuff that convinced me the devil's real, because I swear I see him overtake people when they argue so angrily in favor of ending the life of babies. And they act like you're the one ending the babies' lives, even though you're the one trying to say, hey, let's not do that.
In your opinion, yes.
But I know, but you have to tell me why it's different.
Because I see what you're saying.
No, tell me what's different than a 2-year-old versus a 2-week-old in utero. What's the difference, other than one is older?
Because one isn't necessarily, I know I didn't define like an actual like definition of like when life begins, whatever, but that's always going to be contested. For, you know, it's always going to be like, this is always going to be an issue.
Well, it's contested for now. We believe biological truth will win, because human development does have a starting point, and we believe that once ethics can align with science and biology, then human life will we will have an agreed upon idea of that's when life actually begins.
I see what you're saying. And then in terms of like biological evidence, obviously...
because just sorry to interrupt, but we have reconsidered so many scientific norms over the last 100 years. For example, when the smallpox epidemic happened, we used to give people arsenic because we thought having diarrhea would make it easier for you to get smallpox out of your system.
Wow.
We revisited that, and we were like, that was insane. We used to have bloodletting in the 1700s, where we would, if you were sick, you would try to get as much blood out of your system as possible. We also then discovered antibiotics, and we discovered germ theory. The same goes with abortion. The more we actually learn about the process of human development, the more ultrasound technology, the more that we actually come to the conclusion that it is a human life.
You know, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually going to have to disagree with Charlie Kirk on this one. Do we really appreciate human life more after having scientific advances? I don't think so. We have over 500,000 babies having their lives stripped away from them before they could even truly start it outside of the womb. Not truly, but started outside of the womb. Every single year. Okay, that's just sick. What a crazy, horrible thing and a stain on our nation. After Roe v. Wade was rightfully overturned, well, we've had multiple states that have gone ahead and enshrined the right to abortion in their constitutions, very often up until the day of birth. It's sick. All right, Arizona's done that. New York, California, Colorado, Missouri. The list goes on. And I believe up until the day of birth in all of those states. It's truly wicked.
Life. And finally, let me just ask one other question that you want to get to somebody else.
Yep.
Would you agree that what makes you fundamentally unique than the person next to you is your DNA? We good? Okay. Let me just repeat. That's okay. Would you agree that what makes you fundamentally unique versus the person next to you, who's the bodybuilder, is DNA?
I mean, like from like you're saying, a biological standpoint, yes, the things that make me unique from him is like at a like a molecular level, like at DNA. But I would also argue that things like I'm different than him, not just because of my DNA, obviously. But
right, but to distill it down to its biological truth, DNA, like you should have autonomy over your own DNA. Would you agree?
Over your own DNA, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I mean, what is the abortion argument? My body, my choice.
Yes.
Otherwise said, my DNA, my choice.
I wouldn't, if it like, when DNA, I see where you're getting at.
But then, therefore, if it's not your DNA, why should it be your choice?
Yeah, I see where you're getting at. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I don't.
Tell me why.
Because, it could just be me being like pro-choice, like whatever, like as I consider access to healthcare.
Think about it outside of your ideological
Yes.
worldview. Just think about it. Just think of it as a free thinker. Why do you disagree with it?
I disagree because I would say that a woman's right, that is almost a part of her body is...
Well, it's attached to her body, but it's not her DNA.
But I would also say,
for example, your mom cannot vote for you.
Yes,
your mom is a different, distinct person than you, right?
Mm-hmm.
His mom also doesn't have 20 fingers and 20 toes. It's an obvious point, but it has to be said.
I would say that in terms of like DNA, like since I consider it, it's the mother's like not job or duty, but like that I consider it a part of them. You might say it's attached to them, but like I'd say you ask your mother, you'd say like when she was pregnant with you, she felt like you were an extension of herself. I'm not going to speak for her, but I feel like it's much harder than making like distinct things. And I'm obviously, I can sit here and debate, but I don't have
That's
nearly
okay.
enough educated about.
Fair enough. I want you to think about this in the coming days, weeks, and months, because that's what this is all about. I'm not here to just gotcha. I could tell you're looking at this correctly. We as pro-lifers have a hard job. Our job is to tell millions of people to take responsibility for their actions. Our job is to say that every human being is inherently valuable because it's a human being.
Yes.
And that is a harder argument. Your argument is actually way easier, which is if it feels good, do it. And if something annoying happens, eliminate it. We think you should not be able to eliminate another human being just because it might make your life mildly inconvenient.
Yeah.
So we just have a difference.
Yeah.
Our job is harder, but we believe we're right. You think you are right. And I hope we'll win one day. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Can I
it.
get a hat? And
Yeah,
then,
sure. I could tell you're a big MAGA guy. So, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Boom. Another pro-abortion argument has been taken down by Charlie Kirk yet again. Folks, what did you think? All right, I want to hear your thoughts. Hear what you have to say. Make sure you comment below. Okay, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And that way, we'll be sure to see you again soon. God bless.